So there are a few things that I've learned in the course of my life from trial and error and just learning from your mistakes and everything like that. When you're growing up, there's things that you are being taught by your close ones, things that you learn from your friends, and with all the teachings and advice that you're given, it's relatively and ultimately up to you on how you conduct yourself for for your future and what purpose will that future will bring you. But the point that I'm trying to get at is when you interact with the outside world. And what I mean by outside world, I mean places like, places that you work, where you join the military, or if you're going to school or college or anything of that nature, from working in a hospital to, a correctional facility, law enforcement, EMT, paramedic, just a whole broad of jobs, professions, no matter what you do, there's always going to be a choice that needs to be made. And here's what I here's what I went through in the course of my life. So I have problems with confrontation. Now, don't get me wrong. I know how to handle myself. I can definitely put someone in their place if need be and if I have to. But I avoid confrontation because of that. Some people know a fine line, others don't. Me, I don't want to know where that fine line is, which is why I avoid the confrontation. In a workplace, there are people that work with you and there are people that work for you, or people that you work for. However, there is a workplace and there is someone that you have to report to. Recently, I got this new security job, and there's this guy who's been working probably relatively a little bit longer than I have, and he likes to micromanage. Now, we're all grown. When you go to school, when you work, when you do anything in the world, you have a chain of command, or you have a leveling system. But if someone is learning the same thing that you are, if someone is making the same amount of money that you are, and they don't outrank you in any way, shape, or form, there should be no reason why you shouldn't be micromanaged. Now, at my workplace, I felt that I was being micromanaged. If I take my break, depending on where you live, where you're from, whatever the labor law is, an 8-hour shift, you are allotted 3 breaks, 2 15s and 1 half hour, equaling up to an hour of break time. Some people follow those rules, others tweak the rules, and some just don't follow those rules at all. So when I'm trying to take my breaks, I'm being micromanaged to hold off on it, or to skip it. And when I insist on taking my break, they feel that I'm not man enough or not tough enough to, I guess, power through, because I want that final break. I mean, listen, if you're entitled to it, you're kind of entitled to it. If you're not entitled to it, then you're not entitled to it. That's just how it is. So, if you're entitled to something that a job will give you, it's up to you if you want to take it or not. So, at a certain point, I'm kind of a little bit tired of being told when I can't take a break from people and from the bullshit. So when you're told that you need to hold off on your break from the bullshit on the outside, then that's when you are being micromanaged. Now, if your boss says otherwise, if the job description says otherwise, then that's when you follow otherwise. But if you have someone who's making the same amount of money as you are, and if they are not appointed to run the show, then they have, or they should have, no say on when or where you could do or what you can do. Now, if you're being harassed at work, sexually, physically, emotionally, if you're being again micromanaged, and you feel some type of way about it, you can report it. The second thing I'm trying to get to is when you do decide to speak up for yourself, when you do decide to make a change in a workplace or a change in society on how things are ran, there are pros and cons, and there's always going to be some type of repercussion on the decisions that you make. So, being in the military, you pretty much follow the status quo. Do what you're told, X, Y, and Z. Back in my day, when I was in your shoes, this is what I did, and I follow orders, X, Y, and Z. You're going to get that in any military branch, and you're going to get that in any type of workplace or study place. Someone did it. If I could do it, you could do it too, kind of attitude. So just follow, do as I say, not as I do, kind of complex. You're going to get that all the time. Also, if you speak up on how you're treated at work, whether it's being micromanaged sexually, physically, mentally, and you report it, it would be notified. Something will happen, but you also risk being chastised or being shunned away by your various coworkers. And that's what happened today. When I reported that I felt I was being micromanaged, and that people that work with me, not for me, nor do I work for them, but I work with them, I reported that I was being micromanaged, and that something could be said. I didn't want to get anyone in trouble. I don't. That's the last thing I want. My boss is a former cop, and so he kind of knows his way around things. So I told him, I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. I'm just letting you know that if I want to take my break, I want to take my break, and I shouldn't be told by another person who doesn't outrank me, should be telling me when I could take my break, or when I should come back from my break. Depending on what job you have, between A to B, from your workstation to your break station, anything could happen in between. You could be stopped by another coworker with a dumb question. If you're working in retail or wherever you're working at, you could be stopped by another patron with clearly dumb questions with the customer's always right kind of complex. And especially if you're working in customer service, you know, you kind of need to swiftly take care of that situation so you can swiftly go to your break station or break place or wherever you want to take your break at. You are allowed whatever you are allowed for your break, and you're going to take that. Now, like I said, between A to B, from your workplace to your break place, anything can happen. You know what's going on, but your other colleagues don't know what's going on between A to B. So when you take your full time for your break, they see it as skating off, or, you know, i.e., you know, taking longer for your break than you normally would. So, recapping to all this, if you speak up in a workplace or any kind of professional setting, there's repercussions, whether it could be good or bad, on what can happen. If you don't speak up in a workplace, the bullshit will continue until you do speak up, or if you suddenly decide to say, you know what, F this, I'm worth more than this, I would find another place to work. Unfortunately, in the military, you really can't do that because, you know, once when you're stuck, you're stuck. You know, as nice it would be to just up and go to a new command or a new division or a new platoon, or, you know, depending on, you know, what branch of service you serve for, it would be nice. It would be nice if you could just actually report in and say, hey, you know what, my chain of command or my LPO or, you know, my first sergeant or master chief is pretty much being a dick and can't run shit from the left to the right, and, you know, they'll review it, and then instead of transferring you, they'll transfer them to somewhere else. But, you know, that aside, you know, aside from the military, for the most part, you know, if you don't like a situation, you can probably find another job to work at. I'm doing my best to realize that no matter where you go, no matter where you work, and it's unfortunate that it took me this long in my life to realize that not everything is always going to be in your control, and that you're going to have to find some way to adapt. But I made a choice. Now I have to live with the consequence of pretty much being shunned and avoided by my other colleagues. But at the same time, I'd be damned if someone tells me when I can and can't do something when they're making the same amount of money that I am. Like, that's just, I mean, if you disagree with that, please let me know. But you can't tell me that I'm wrong, because you know for a fact that if someone makes the same amount of money that you do, whether they work there longer than you have or they just got on board, you'd be damned if they tell you what you can and can't do. And that's just word to everything you care about. So, you know, I did apply to a different job. You know, as sad as it sounds, every job that I have is temporary until I, you know, get the ideal job that I want. And you know, until I get there, you know, I guess I'm just gonna power through everything instead of just up and quitting. You know, if I have to, I will. But, you know, what if I could power through it until I get to where I need to be? Then so be it. But, you know, that's a consequence that I have to live with now. So ultimately, what I'm trying to say is if there's something going on in a workplace or professional setting, you don't like it, weigh out your pros and cons on reporting something. because even though retaliation or any type of vengeance on you is technically not allowed, it still could kind of happen in the most subtle way that you could possibly imagine. So, if you report something, it will get out. Even though they say that it won't, it will get out. You will be avoided. People won't help you, the whole entire nine. You're pretty much hanged to dry. That's about it.